When the USS Thresher was lost in 1963 during deep diving tests off New England, all 129 people aboard didn't survive. Investigators later confirmed how quickly small failures can become fatal underwater. Inside a submarine, a single wrong valve or delayed response can flood a compartment in seconds. Hundreds of feet below the surface, escape isn't an option. Navy manuals explain procedures. They don't teach the habits that matter most. From how you move through tight passageways to what you say during an emergency drill, these unwritten rules decide who earns trust and whether mistakes stay small or turn fatal. Never slam a door. In the claustrophobic steel world of a submarine, never slamming a door is an unwritten rule born from the value of sleep. Down there, far beneath the surface, the boat never stops running. Instruments are always running and the watch teams rotate in a cycle that ensures someone is always on duty. Because submarines operate 24 hours a day, the chance to sleep is limited and precious, which means that submariners have already learned that any noise is a direct threat to a shipmate's ability to recharge between watches. Imagine being a sailor on a long patrol. Your day isn't marked by sunrise or sunset, but the constant routine of watch shifts, maintenance cycles, drills, and meal turnovers. On older schedules, sailors stood watches in 6-hour blocks, cycling through an 18-hour day where sleep might be broken into uneven periods. On newer schedules, many boats now adopt 24-hour watch rotations with more consistent sleep blocks. In this situation, if someone slams the hatch or drops a tool in the passageway, it can jolt a crewmate out of the deepest part of their sleep, because they are first soldiers and built to quickly respond to any emergency. Research on shift work and sleep aboard submarines proves that even slight disruptions can affect performance and alertness anywhere, especially since the circadian rhythms are already challenged by dim lighting and rotating schedules. So, on a submarine, this unwritten rule becomes instinctive. Move with quiet purpose by closing hatches gently, setting down equipment carefully, and speaking only when necessary. This etiquette isn't a formality, but it helps to protect the most vital resource that a submarine has. Before we dive into another unwritten rule that might surprise you, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to our page for more insights into life on US Navy vessels like submarines and all you need to know about them. Showers last only 3 minutes. If you could only shower for 3 minutes a day, would you do it? Well, that's the life of submariners in the US Navy. Even if modern submarines can produce fresh water by distilling or filtering seawater, the water doesn't magically turn into endless showers. On a submarine, every drop has a purpose, and fresh water is one of the most precious commodities aboard because of the sheer limits of storage, production rate, and the number of mouths it must sustain. As submariners like to joke, you're surrounded by water and constantly competing for it. A submarine might be able to make fresh water from seawater through reverse osmosis or evaporators, and modern nuclear-powered boats can literally keep a distillation plant running indefinitely. But all this water isn't only for showers. That fresh water is first fed to the important systems like the steam plant, cooling electronics, drinking water, cooking, and any life or death needs before showers and personal grooming. Only what's left goes into the sinks and shower stalls. As a result, the crews do what they call a Navy shower. This happens when you turn the water on only briefly to get wet, shut it off to lather, then rinse it quickly. With this shower, you can save a lot of water. Because of these strict limits, the unwritten rule on submarines is to time your shower right. If you hang out under a stream of water for 10 or 15 minutes like you might at home, this is a major taboo. But if you linger, you're wasting water and affecting the supply of water that everyone else depends on. Some boats even assign shower slots so that the crew doesn't descend on one sink area at once. And if the water production slows down or the tanks dip low, showers can be restricted further until the balance has been restored. Submariners aren't only careful about how they use water, but there are unwritten rules about hot racking and shared space etiquette. Hot racking and shared space etiquette. In a submarine, privacy is something you learn to live without, and personal space becomes a shared commodity that everyone protects. Since the berthing space is so limited, often with more crew members than available bunks, Submariners usually practice what they call hot racking. This happens when 2 or even 3 sailors rotate through the same rack, based on their watch schedule. So yes, you don't have your own bed on a submarine. One sailor finishes a shift and climbs out of the bunk, and other slides right in to catch their rest before their next watch. The rack stays literally warm from the person who just left it. And because of the scarcity of space, shared space etiquette becomes an important, unwritten rule. With every rack used by multiple people over the course of a day, keeping your sleeping area clean, organized, and respectful of others' gear isn't optional. Personal items can be tucked into tiny lockers or stored right beside the bunk, and curtains rather than walls provide minimal privacy. That means if someone else is due to use the same space after you, you want it to be ready and welcoming, not a pile of clutter. Also, roll up your bedding neatly, stow your boots and personal effects out of the way, and be mindful of noise or light when others are trying to rest. By obeying these unwritten rules, you can strengthen teamwork. Although those rapid 3-minute showers and hot racking might seem like a quirky limitation at first, they reveal to us how efficiency shapes every corner of submarine life. Even something as simple as bathing has become an unwritten rule, but conserving water is just a side of the story. Imagine what happens when you need everyone on board to step into someone else's shoes. What does it take for a crew to be truly interchangeable? Learn the boat. You might not expect this, but being on a submarine might not exactly mean doing your own job alone. As a submariner, you're expected to understand how the entire boat works and why that matters. From the moment new sailors graduate from submarine school and start their qualification process, they start learning about all the other systems that keep the vessel alive under the waves. That's because a submarine depends on cross-trained, adaptable crew members who can step in wherever they're needed, especially in an emergency where every sound counts and specialists might not be immediately available. This is an unwritten rule every submariner focuses on instead. Imagine a scenario deep underwater where an unexpected system failure or casualty occurs. In those moments, there isn't time to wait for that guy to arrive. The atmosphere control, nuclear plant, damage control, and electrical systems must keep functioning. Each submariner, regardless of their primary role, builds a working knowledge of these systems so that if called upon, they can react quickly and confidently. So every sailor on the submarine can rest assured that their co-workers are just as capable because the crew's survival depends on it. That takes us to our next unwritten rule, which is that everyone matters on the submarine. Before we explore the next unwritten rule, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Stay with us as we break down U.S. Navy vessels from submarines to aircraft carriers, how they work, and what's new. Everyone matters. You might expect the usual pecking order that happens on larger surface ships, but on a submarine, interdependence is an unwritten rule. Formal rank still matters, orders are followed, and authority is still respected. But in daily life, submariners depend on one another in ways that sometimes blur the lines between officer and enlisted. In such tight quarters, where dozens of sailors share narrow passageways and bunks, and where every system must be maintained 24/7, every crew member has made it a norm to depend on each other. There's literally no space or privacy on a submarine, and the constant proximity between all the crew members quickly dissolves the barriers between people. With shared meals, hot racking, and overlapping watch duties, it's easy to become close to your coworkers. Because of this, experienced sailors have made it a rule to help their juniors without ego, and rank becomes less about status and more about mutual respect and shared responsibility. It's not surprising that submariners stick to each other because the crew must trust one another with lives, not just tasks. In emergencies, whether a systems failure, damage control event, or sudden drill, there isn't time for hesitation and no one is in the background. Each person's knowledge, action, and decision can directly affect the safety of the submarine and every teammate on board. Even when formal hierarchy relaxes and everyone pitches in on a submarine, the reality of living in such intense proximity with the same group of people for weeks or months or end means that the crew dynamics matter just as much as technical skill. After all, there's no sunlight, limited privacy, and little connection to the outside world. So, what's the unwritten rule that they use to prevent fights? It's simple. Leave it all outside. Leave politics and drama outside. Life aboard a submarine is physically confining and emotionally intense. With a small crew submerged for weeks or months at a time, there's no escape from the same faces, walls, and routines. That's where this unwritten rule comes in. Submariners intentionally avoid divisive topics like politics or personal drama while underway. After all, these conversations can linger and fester in ways that hurt morale when there's nowhere to retreat or cool off. Teamwork is very important on the submarine. Without regular contact with family or fresh air and with limited communication to the outside world, submariners rely heavily on one another for support, companionship, and a sense of normalcy. That's why the crew stays away from divisive and emotional topics. This way, they can prevent small disagreements from snowballing into something that could affect performance or interpersonal trust during important moments. Even if each submariner has their own political stance, values, and beliefs, they leave it outside the hatch and keep the peace. This preserves a smooth rhythm of collaboration and mutual respect. But there's another thing submariners need to be careful about, and that's superstitions. Be aware of superstitions. There's a side to submarine life that never makes it to the formal training manuals, and that's the superstitions, rituals, and quirky traditions that helps crews bond, break tension, and create a shared identity. Submariners often use nicknames like Bubblehead for one another, a playful badge of belonging that reflects life down in the silent depths of water. When operations allow, boats might hold a steel beach picnic on the surfaced hull, where sailors grill food and enjoy sunshine before a sudden dive, or even authorize a swim call, where part of the crew dives into the open ocean for a refreshing and supervised break in the endless blue. Rituals like this offer moments of levity and connection, which is important where the days blend together and confinement wears on even the most seasoned sailor. When a submarine crosses the equator on a long transit, crews may observe the classic line crossing ceremony. This is a rite of passage that transforms the fresh arrivals or polywogs into shellbacks. Although these rituals are amusing and allow the submariners to become closer to each other, one unwritten rule is that they need to do this safely. Surface ship rituals can veer into hazing, but modern submarine practices don't allow dangerous superstitions and hazing. Traditions are only allowed when they boost morale without crossing lines. Even as you boost morale, another unwritten rule on a submarine is to look out for all your shipmates. Look out for your shipmates. Below the surface, submariners live and work in one of the most psychologically demanding and socially intense environments in the military. They are isolated, confined, and operating on a strict cycle of watches, duties, and routines that blur the line between day and night. That pressure makes the emotional and mental well-being of each crew member as vital as their technical skills, because everyone is relying on everyone else to stay sharp, alert, and ready. Crewmates share trust, responsibility, and the quiet burden of long deployments where limited contact with family and the outside world can heighten stress and feelings of isolation. In this setting, looking out for shipmates is an important rule that you're just meant to know. This keeps the crew functioning and morale stable. Mental strain can show up in subtle ways like irritability, withdrawal, and fatigue, so teammates learn to watch for changes in each other's behavior and offer help in quiet, practical ways. These include pitching in with extra tasks, offering a listening ear, or simply showing up when someone seems off. Leadership training aboard submarines often focuses on recognizing stress early and supporting crew wellness. But no matter what, there's one rule everyone knows, and that's what it means to earn your dolphins. But here's the twist. Looking out for your shipmates and building that quiet, dependable trust is the foundation of what submarines live and breathe for. Beneath the surface, there's a respect and mutual reliance which is all encased in a symbol. What does this symbol mean for a submariner? Earning your dolphins changes everything. There's an unwritten respect for sailors who have earned their submarine warfare insignia, also known as dolphins. This is only awarded after an intensive qualification process, in which a sailor must prove deep knowledge of virtually every system on board, from propulsion and electrical distribution to life support and damage control, and demonstrate that they can perform under pressure. Wearing dolphins tells everyone aboard that you've not only mastered the technical heart of the boat, but that you've earned the trust and respect of your shipmates. In fact, many submariners have said that the moment they earned their dolphins was one of the most meaningful moments of their career. Once you've qualified, you're not just a sailor assigned to a submarine. You're a fully trusted member of the Silent Service, ready to take on responsibility anywhere the boat needs you. From whispered passageways and 3-minute showers to shared racks, earned trust, and non-stop watch rotations, life aboard a U.S. Navy submarine shows how discipline, training, and teamwork keep a crew alive beneath the surface for months at a time. Every habit matters when escape isn't an option. Do you think you could handle life inside the Silent Service? Let us know in the comments. For more real looks at U.S. Navy vessels, subscribe and hit the bell. We'll see you in the next video.